You're listening to Seattle Real Estate Podcast.
So a group of business leaders and civic leaders got together and wrote a letter last week, and it basically goes, we need some help here in downtown Seattle. We need some help with the crime and with addiction issues and with mental health care issues, and we need it stat. All right, so we've got this cry coming out from business leaders, and it's like, all right, yep, we've been hearing you. And yet we haven't had something like this just so outright. All right, here's the deal. And so we've got that narrative going, this isn't great. And then you've got this, you've got tourists returning to downtown Seattle and tourists returning to a lot of the downtown cores. I was reading about how rents in commercial space in New York has come back to pre-pandemic levels in a lot of their markets. So we're on that rebound thing. And the interesting thing about downtown Seattle is our big tech workers, the Googles, the Facebook, the Microsoft, the Amazon, they don't have their workers going back to the office yet in downtown Seattle. Whether that's a whole, we don't want to push the odds of COVID, or more likely, in my opinion, it's a matter of, well, they've been working from home this long so far. What's another 6 months going to hurt them? And in the meantime, we're kind of putting some emphasis on, hey, the drugs and the crazy people. Basically, it's the unhoused or the homeless or the however you want to define it. There's some real issues going on, and it's kind of at that critical phase of, all right, we know workers are coming back, but what are they coming back to? That's what we're going to talk about today. All right, before we jump on in, if you're new here, welcome. My name is Sean Reynolds. I own a couple of real estate companies. I'm located here in Seattle, Washington, and I read the news. That's what we do. I give you my perspective, whatever that might be, good, bad, or indifferent. All right, so let's start off with Seattle business leaders say dire situation downtown demands swift action. We need action now. We need it right now. While it's in the top of my head, let's go, Brandon. How about that storyline? That's a funny one, right? Just been following that. It's like, let's go, Brandon. Yeah, good one, right? If you haven't seen that story, just do a little Google search for let's go, Brandon, and I think you'll know what I mean. So funny. Business and civic leaders on Thursday called for immediate action and investment to address the mental health and substance abuse crisis in downtown Seattle. Just calling it right out. Executives from Amazon, Vulcan, and Weyerhaeuser were among the approximate 6 signers of the letter. Those are some fairly substantial heavy hitters, right? They were among approximately 6 signers of the letter, which the Downtown Seattle Association sent to the City Council and Metropolitan King County Council. It was full of hair-raising tales of assaults, vandalism, and other crime. Well, we don't need to make that up. I mean, how many of those storylines have we covered right here in the Seattle Real Estate Podcast? Dozens. And what jumped out to me in that last paragraph was the fact that Weyerhaeuser has come right out and said, hey, we've got this office space in Pioneer Square where you will hear of a lot of the shootings happening there. It happens just about every weekend. I think this past weekend they got a hall pass. Maybe it was because there was no Seahawks game and Seahawks played on Thursday, lost. Man, the Seahawks uniforms were terrible. It's just a terrible color, terrible look. What is going on? Not good. But one of the podcasts I did last week was Weyerhaeuser has office space in Pioneer Square, which is in downtown Seattle. And they've basically said, yeah, you know what? We're not going to utilize that office space until that area gets cleaned up. They basically said, whoa, Nelly, we're not sending our workers there. Not safe. So among other things, the letter asked the city to adopt all of the public safety and housing investments, including increasing the number of community service officers proposed in Mayor Jenny Durkan's 2022 budget. We need some help. We need to spend some money on trying to fix the process or fix the stuff we've got going on in downtown, because it's not a great place for us to have our workers or our clients or anybody. But then, you know what I deal with a lot is a lot of folks who are selling real estate. They're showing real estate And they're kind of like, yeah, but once you get in the front door of these big complexes, it's fine. They're really nice. You go up in an elevator, 30 floors, and everything looks better from up top. Yes, that is true. But that's because you've already played the dodge the human fecal matter on the sidewalk. That's not necessarily the look that you want. So, yeah. So this business group, the Downtown Seattle Association, they're basically sounding the alarm. Hey, yeah. And same things happen in Portland, right? I mean, business leaders there are like, whoa, yeah, we need some help here. We need something other than the city council to just kind of brush us off and say, well, it's a big city. There's a lot of crime. It's okay. You guys just deal with it. The group also asked the city and county to fund and establish an initiative to clamp down on organized retail crime, similar to one recently launched in San Francisco, and that the councils jointly develop and fund a downtown homelessness response strategy led by New County Regional Homelessness Authority, the RHA. These actions and investments are critical to meeting the needs of the most vulnerable in our community and addressing the safety and security issues impacting downtown Seattle, the letter states. This comes less than a month before the city election, with the race for mayor between City Council President M. Lorena Gonzalez and former City Council member Bruce Harrell at the top of the ballot. They recently debated homelessness issue, which is at the top of mind among voters. I think homelessness issue is the number one thing here in Seattle. And if you're in Seattle and if you're not, impacted by the homelessness issue, it's because you're just like, yeah, whatever. It's all right. They're okay doing their own thing. We'll stay over here doing our own thing. But it's not really like that. This impacts so many things. And this is coming from, today's podcast is kind of coming from the business perspective, right? It's tough to run a business when you can't get customers in the front door. There's no other way around that, right? Can't do it. How many podcasts have we talked about businesses having to hire their own security, businesses having to get special, security installed in their shop so that they can let people in? I mean, startups leaving. Yeah, I'm just not really down with the crime here. It's not safe. This is ongoing, and this is the big kind of key issue right now. In a statement of business to the Business Journal, City Council member Lisa Herbold said she will look into expanding the CSO and other programs and funding to support the Seattle Police Department's 2022 hiring plan. We are refunding the police, which in a best case recruitment scenario would result in a sworn force of 1,230 officers. Okay, it's getting better, but it's not great. We're not there yet, right? We need, I think, 1,400 officers on the books. There's a couple hundred that are always, not available. They're doing whatever. They're either coming in or they're going out. So you need a few hundred more than what you've got in order to fill all the available slots of what's happening. So Dan Strauss, he's a council member, said he and other city council members will propose a large and strategic increase in behavioral health crisis response beyond what the mayor has proposed. All right, we need that. Is it going to work? Is it going to help? Who knows? And with the RAH, the Regional Homelessness Association, I think that's what it was. Is that what it was? Regional Homeless Authority. Yep. And I lost my place, so I'm just going to take up here. At the same time, until we have people working downtown, I am unsure how successful retail businesses will be because downtown economic activity relies on people working in offices. Yes, that is true. Only around 20% of this office space in Seattle is occupied. 20%. But we expect to see that increase significantly in quarter one, quarter two of 2022 as our larger occupiers come back to their office space. That's what I'm reading an article here in just a sec. All right. So here's some of the things that came from that letter here's a direct quote from that letter. Certain areas in the heart of the retail and arts and cultural core have been taken over for shoplifting and drug trafficking operations. This is a business leader saying, hey, this is what's going on. Retail theft is rampant. Invisible organized fencing operations are costing retailers millions in stolen goods and additional expenses for increased security. Now, we've talked a bunch about that is when you go downtown to Portland, you go downtown to Seattle, and a lot of big downtowns that have kind of some of the issues we've got going on here in Seattle. Private security. You'll see one security guard, maybe two security guards for a big, big building. But that's what they do. They walk around the perimeter of the footprint of the building at ground level and just check things out, make sure everything's going on okay. That's expensive. That is incredibly expensive. And yet, in order to kind of keep their business model going, whether that's an apartment, whether it's a condo, whatever it is, it's necessary because of the stuff going on at street level. Simply put, the current systems, programs, responses, and interventions are inadequate and ineffective in addressing these issues, said the signers of the letter. So they're asking the City Council to support Mayor Jenny Durkan's public safety and housing investments in the 2022 budget, increasing police staffing, building new housing, expanding the Health One program, and increasing the number of community service officers. The Downtown Seattle Association is also asking the City Council to establish a grant program to help businesses and venues pay for private security. So they're basically coming right out and saying, hey, what we got now, it's not really working. So we'd like you to help us out to provide our own private security. Give us some grants. I mean, that's just nutty, isn't it? You're basically just saying, all right, government, you can't do your job, but we need to take some money so that we can pay somebody to get the job done. I mean, that's literally what we're saying here. One arts organization that I know of, and this is the letter, is spending an additional $30,000 a month on security. And that's money that's not going to their staff or to promote and market events to draw customers back. That's just to keep the doors open and create a safe environment. 30 grand. That seems like a lot. 24/7 security, it's just not a cheap thing. The City Council is in the process of writing next year's budget. So we've got all of these kind of things coming and going, and we know, all right, the homelessness thing, that is not going away. So here in Seattle, we're in the process right now of kind of getting ready for the whole eviction moratorium coming off. That's going to be mid-January. We're hearing about that throughout the nation. You've got markets where the moratoriums are coming off. Things are kind of returning back to normal. People are getting evicted, that whole thing. But you don't hear of massive numbers across the board, do you? Haven't had too many storylines like that, have we? It's interesting, isn't it? Are we going to? I don't think so. And that's kind of what I've said all along. You're always going to have a certain percentage of people that'll get evicted for whatever reason. And I think that's ongoing right now. And it would have been ongoing during the pandemic, but the CDC basically just said, recommended don't put a moratorium on it all. Keep everybody in their home, keep everybody housed. And now we're at that phase where we're like, oh, okay. Yep. People, it's eviction time, unfortunately, for a lot of folks. And so I'm kind of watching that, seeing how that plays out. And so far, I haven't seen a ton of storylines on it. Just hasn't been out there. So I don't know. So the third article that I'm going to touch on here is tourists return to downtown Seattle. We know that's happening, but office workers, they're staying home. Interesting. This is another one from the Puget Sound Business Journal. So foot traffic is steadily increasing in downtown Seattle and tourism is on the upswing. But office workers, they haven't come back. The city's on a road to economic recovery by several metrics. Pike Place market visitors have recovered by 80% since the COVID-19 pandemic began. Hotel room demand has bounced back to 68% of what it was before March 1st, and the number of downtown visitors has steadily increased. Visitors, but not office workers. So, and here we go. This is the same thing. So John Scholes, he's CEO and Downtown Seattle Association president, said the increase in foot traffic has given reason for optimism. We are encouraged by the number of people coming to downtown, but he recognized the tens of thousands of office workers missing from downtown every day makes the future uncertain for all the small businesses, because those are the ones that depend on foot traffic. And you're not going to see that if things aren't safe in general, or if you're going to open up your company and wherever you are, and you've got a homeless encampment nearby, you're going to have that conflict going on, right? And so that's kind of literally what I think is happening right now. Big companies are, specifically the ones in Seattle, they're kind of like, all right, you know what? Everybody else is just kicking out their time frames till Q1 of 2022. Let's not bring our employees back because we don't want them to have to deal with that. We need to get some of this cleaned up. And so that's literally what's going on. I did a sweep through the SoDo district, which is a district that everybody knows where that is. It's south of the Kingdome, SoDo. And yet there's no Kingdome left. So it's one of those things. I did a run through there late last week because the 72-hour, then you got to move your vehicle on the street. That law is going to go back into effect here. That has been put on hold during the whole coronavirus thing, because then, the argument is that somebody living in their car, that is their home. You can't evict them from their car. And if they can't move their car, it's like people go from homeless to living in their car. That's the next step. And then truly they're on the streets from there. That is the argument that a lot of folks have. Hey, this is the progression of how unhoused or homeless. I read somewhere where somebody said, hey, calling it unhoused, that's not really fair either. It's homeless because unhoused only deals with the physical structure. Homelessness deals with the emotional, the spiritual, all the other impacts that you have when you lose your home. So it's like, okay, just tell me what to call it and I will call it that. I don't know. I thought unhoused was where we're supposed to go. Homeless, unhoused, however you describe it, I guess, without a roof over your head, like the vast majority of the rest of us, right? So Seattle's tech giants are fueling that uncertainty of, do we go back to downtown yet? Or is it too early? I think the big tech players they've been on this work from home forever. And until things kind of mellow out with the whole Delta numbers, I think they're just going to be like, yeah, whatever. And we can do this for a long, long time. And obviously it doesn't impact their business models because they're all online anyway. But there's a lot of managers that kind of point to, we don't have that collective energy that we do at the office. So whether it's these companies are just saying, yeah, we don't want our workers coming back to downtown because downtown Seattle is a little sketchy, especially some of the locations where these big buildings are, or it's just, yeah, we're not there yet based on COVID numbers are still high. Not everybody sent their workers back. Here's where we're at. So Amazon leads the area in number of employees with an estimated 60,000 office workers in the Seattle area. But Microsoft, Google, and Facebook, they all have significant outposts as well. All four of the companies have delayed full office reopening plans. Microsoft indefinitely. Don't know when you will return, if ever. And I keep hearing Amazon probably January-ish, right? Less than a quarter of office workers have returned to downtown as of September 19th. We've had occasional peaks of 30 to 38%. But right now, it's less than that. It's like, yeah, it's around a quarter. So Rachel's Ginger Beer, that's a business, sits in the middle of Amazon's sprawling campus in the Denny Triangle. Remember Denny Park? Yeah, it's that one where we had a big clear out, big homeless encampment during the Rona, 60 tents, 65 tents, all kinds of craziness going on. I did at least one video there, maybe a couple, talking about it at least. It's at the base of Amazon Summit Tower and across the street from the Spheres and the Nitro South Tower. 18 months into the pandemic, however, the few employees who trickle out of the Frontier, the Summit, and the Nitro Towers every 30 minutes, they aren't helping business, owner Rachel Marshall said. It's kind of an impossible spot to be in. I understand why Amazon isn't pushing their employees to get back to the office when Google and Facebook aren't either, Marshall said. But it's hard when you expect to operate a business with 25,000 tech employees in a square block. It's kind of what you need to know there, right there, right? So that is how dense these areas are as far as the workers, the number of buildings. You'll have like in a small area like the Denny Triangle area, you've just got these massive buildings on either side, and they house a ton of workers, 25,000 within a block. Those people walking around, those are your folks who frequent Rachel's Ginger Beer and all the other little tiny businesses there. And in some of them, not so tiny. So Marshall opened the shop 6 weeks before the pandemic hit the region, she said. The Capitol Hill location took a big hit during Chop and Chaz, not shocking. And the Pike Place shop has recovered by 90% since March 2020. So in Amazon, we go on to read about Amazon, and they're basically saying, maybe January. And most large tech employees, they are requiring proof of vaccination to return to the office. And then we've got the whole, October 28th was what we were originally told. Businesses with employees of more than 100 are going to be required to have their employees show vaccination. Otherwise, they'll get cut. We are right on the cusp of having a lot of these vaccine mandates. We're going to find out what's really going on. One of the ones that everybody's been asking me, hey, can you update the numbers, is the number of Seattle police. And as of, I think it was yesterday, the number of police that that had not turned in their vaccination papers, proof of vaccination, was down to 292. And that cut off, we're basically there already. So much of this stuff is moving targets, right? We'll kick it out a little bit here. The police one is super interesting because the Seattle Police Department's already way down on their numbers. And if they have to let go any officers at all, that's not a good thing. Washington State Patrol is another one that I've been watching. They are, I think, are they like 90? They're either 93 or 97% vaccinated. It's damn near 100%. What else do you want? You know what I mean? But Seattle Police, that could be a big one. Washington State ferries are having a tough time scheduling. Don't have enough crew members. They could have a few leave, and wouldn't be good either. Any of these businesses with labor shortages just don't have enough people to run their operations. My beloved 7-Eleven here in Bellevue, it's not really that beloved. It's just the one that I go to. Every now and then I'll go there on the weekend. It's like, you're closed on a Friday at 9:30 because you couldn't get a worker in there to cover that shift. Yeah, that's 7-Eleven. This is not need a degree, need a doctoral degree and an MBA to run the front counter at 7-Eleven. So, there's a lot of businesses out there that are struggling to keep up with the demand on top of having, massive labor shortage. And so we're dealing with all of that on top of downtown Seattle struggling with homelessness and crime syndicates being run out of some of the tented areas downtown. Some of that's been under control. Some of that has gotten probably a little bit better. But then you also read all the stories of, shooting on 3rd Avenue, shooting on 4th Avenue. Those areas, those streets that have been just really tough in downtown. And so are the big tech companies, keeping their employees away because of, COVID restrictions, or just because they've been doing this for so long that what's the rush? Or because they know it's not exactly the safest of environments. Well, what I kind of feel it's going to happen is nothing will really happen as far as getting any more money for security, getting any more help with the homelessness issue, getting any more money for homeless who have issues with addiction or with mental health issues. None of that's going to happen. You're just going to, Q1, you're going to send all these employees back, and you're going to have some real boots on the ground conflict. That's going to happen. And then, some money will be spent by these big companies independently, like Amazon, Google, Facebook. They're going to spend some money, and miraculously, the situation will kind of just disappear from our horizon. It'll be back to business as usual. What will they do? They will handle it. They'll take care of it. They've got the resources to do that. But until such time, I think you can beat the drum as much as you want. Not much is going to happen, which gives me podcast content for days, right? I mean, it's kind of ridiculous that this is the point that we're at, is that you can't ask your local government to really do anything or get anything done, because this has been ongoing for years. We've been in a homelessness issue crisis since 2015, I think is when they called it, something like that. It's been a long time. And is it getting better? No, it's getting worse. So, and this is going to play out in both the city attorneys races that are coming this November, and also the mayor races and city council races as well, because how that gets handled determines a lot of the future of Seattle. And right now, you got some big businesses, you got some massive tech industries. We're going to have a little showdown with what we've got going on for just a little bit of time. And I think that gets swept underneath the rug. And then we just kind of pretend everything. Then we go back to pretending everything is business as usual. And those folks will have been swept somewhere else. That's the whack-a-mole concept, right? Push out a encampment, they go somewhere else. That's just literally what we're dealing with. Nothing ever really gets solved, but the downtown core will get cleaned up a little bit. Those are my predictions. So look for a big cleanup come January. Yeah. So that's where we are at on this one. But meantime, business leaders are like, you guys got to do something here. And they're right. You do. It's not a good look. But we've seen this look, and we are seeing this look in a lot of cities that have handled things somewhat the same. Interesting, right? Yeah. It's interesting how that works. All right. That's it for me on this one. This podcast storyline will continue. It's going to keep on it going. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for being part of the Seattle Real Estate Podcast. I'll catch up with you in the next one. Until then, stay safe, and we'll talk again. Bye for now. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you'll know when our next video is out.